Last time, we entered a nether fortress and was able to collect enough blaze rods, went strip mining, made a full set of diamond armour, went back to the nether to kill endermen for ender pearls, enchanted all of my gear and tracked down the stronghold. I started preparing to enter the end, making sure that I had set my spawn and had spare items in my chest just in case I died. I knew water buckets were going to be crucial for this, so thinking ahead, I made a quick water source in the corner, so if I did die, then I had an unlimited supply to water to refill my buckets with. I had a little reorganise in my inventory, and then walked in. I spawned in the end island, so I had to dig my way up to the surface, placing slabs as I went. I managed to find the top, hearing the Enderdragon for the first time, and dug up until I was out of the hole. At this point, I was trying not to panic. I've only ever killed the Enderdragon a handful of times. The last time I did it in survival mode was over a year ago, I think. I headed straight for the obsidian towers, aiming to take out as many crystals as possible with my bow and arrow. I took out the first one, wasting a couple arrows on the second, then accidentally looked an enderman in the eyes. Very bad decision. So I placed down my bucket of water to try and stop him from getting to me. There were now 2 of them that were mad at me. The Enderdragon killed one of them, but just as I was about to kill the second, the dragon's breath was shot at me. So I had to vacate the water, but luckily the dragon's breath killed the other enderman for me. I turned my attention back to destroying the end crystals, taking out 3 more with my bow and arrow before working on the crystals that were either in cages or too high up to reach with arrows. I used a technique that I've used before in this situation, using a water bucket to swim up to the top of the obsidian tower. It was a bit tricky making it up to the top, and I was fully aware that if the Enderdragon decided to hit me while I had my water bucket placed, then I would very likely fall to my death. Luckily, that didn't happen, and after struggling a bit, okay, maybe a lot, I was able to destroy the end crystal. I spotted another couple of end crystals on top of the pillars, close to the one I was already climbing, so decided to shoot them from the top. All that was left now was the 2 crystals in cages. For those, I would need to climb up to the top of them using water and then hit them from the bottom of the cage. The first one I destroyed pretty easily. The second one was a little trickier, and it got a bit hairy when I accidentally placed my water inside the cage and almost lost it completely. Luckily, I wasn't too far away, so I picked it back up in my bucket and destroyed the crystal. Now that all the crystals were destroyed, it was time to start dealing some damage on the dragon. I shot a couple arrows at it, and once again must have looked at a couple endermen in the process, because they got a bit mad at me. I ended up 2v1ing them, my shield breaking in the process, but was able to come out victorious and quickly replace my shield with a spare that I had. I was mainly focusing on using arrows to deal damage to the dragon, seeing as it seemed a lot safer than going in with my sword when the dragon was perching. When it did perch, I discovered that arrows cannot harm it, and you cannot go into the portal area when it is perching. So I changed my strategy, using arrows mainly but dealing damage with my sword when it was perched. It was working well. I had the dragon down to about 2/3 of its health, but then while it was perching, it shot Dragon's Breath right where I wanted to go, which was a little annoying. And then I noticed a couple endermen heading straight for me. I don't even remember looking anywhere near them, but obviously I had done something to them. I killed them pretty easily, and continued the fight. I hadn't even gotten the dragon down to half health when I noticed I only had 14 arrows left. Definitely not enough for the remainder of the fight, meaning I was going to have to do the majority of the damage with my sword during a perch. I only got 1 hit in when the Enderdragon flung me into the air as it left the perch. Luckily, I have decent reflexes and was able to use my water bucket so I didn't take full damage. After that, I started to get some really good hits in, managed to get 6 in a row and bringing the dragon's health to pretty low. Hopefully 1 more perch should do it. I got a few more arrow hits in and saw it was starting to perch. And on the second hit of my sword, I did it. I killed the Enderdragon. And as XP rained down on me, I could not believe that I had done it all without jumping once. I'd completed my challenge. I went around collecting all of the XP that I could, but I had 1 more job to do before leaving the end. I wanted a trophy. I'd brought with me a piston and a lever, so I built up to the egg and built a little platform around it, placed the piston, flicked the lever, and the egg was mine. Satisfied, I took one last look at the end and walked into the portal. Once back in the portal room, I took a moment to sort through my inventory and collect everything that I wanted to keep, and set off back to the surface. I was concerned I was going to have to dig my way out of the stronghold, but luckily I found my route back to the surface and used my water bucket to swim to the top. Once on the surface, I started my journey home, passing shipwrecks that I still couldn't loot, not only because my inventory was full, but because I had completed my goal and would likely not retrace this route ever again. I spotted a dolphin jumping out of the water and spotted a savannah village, which I definitely didn't see on my journey to the stronghold. I finally made it back to the jungle, which I love navigating so much. I even found a couple of my slabs, so I knew I was definitely heading in the right direction to get home. I found the path that I dug through the sand to get through, and spotted the family of turtles who I also saw on my journey to the stronghold. They hadn't seemed to have moved at all. Finally, as the sun was setting, I spotted home. I ran inside, saying a quick hello to Househorse, and sleeping. I set about making the final preparations. I cleared out my inventory, not worrying about sorting through my items, and then went outside to do something important. Fill in the creeper hole I was meant to last episode. The explosion had blown up some of the trees, so I was debating whether to cut it down, but instead I decided on an easier option. Perfect. Finally, I set about making a pedestal for my dragon egg, using a block of gold, cement stone, and deep slate. And as I placed the egg down and closed it in with a piece of glass, I felt relieved. This challenge had been a lot of fun, but also very stressful, but I was proud of myself. I completed the goal that I set about achieving in 51 Minecraft days, and I also did it without dying once. So, as I took everything in, I looked around and I saw pillagers. The first pillagers of the series. So of course I had to go and kill them. And once that was done, I took one last look at what I had achieved and logged off.